Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. All right. It looks like the House Republicans have finally managed to put together a budget that will be voted on and passed by the end of the week this week. Johnson has to use that special method where he gets 2/3 of the House to bring some legislation to the floor. This is to do an end around the Freedom Caucus, who would block the budget discussions. And at that point, they'd be able to vote on the budget that they're working on. The budget is, according to this Yahoo article I'm reading, tracks with what McCarthy agreed to with Biden. Congratulations. All this drama, and you really don't have much to show for it. Johnson's tried to tout what successes they have, and it's such incredible things like a 6% cut to foreign aid programs and only allowing the American flag to be flown over U.S. diplomatic facilities. Apparently, the Biden administration gave diplomatic facilities the ability to, put up the gay pride flag or light up the buildings in rainbow colors. And that's just a bridge too far for the Republicans. So that's the type of compromises that they managed to get. After they vote on the budget, Congress is out for 2 weeks. And when they come back, they're going to start looking at the Ukraine funding bill, amongst others. In a related story, a committee of Republicans, I don't have the story up unfortunately now, but they're looking at raising Social Security's age and restricting benefits for high earners or something along those lines. So that whole, we're not, the shouting down of Biden a year ago that they were going after Social Security and Medicare, and they said they weren't. Well, here they are again going after it. And Biden, in this State of the Union, recent one, said, I'm not going to let you touch Social Security. Trump was saying, we should cut these entitlements. And then he backed away from that statement because it turned out not to be very popular. And really what they're trying to say is, we don't mean for people on it now. We're lucky talking people that aren't going to be here. Basically, we're going to cut the benefits to young people because screw them. They're not collecting it. They're not supporting us anyways, so we can punch down on them. Lots to read about. Lots of money. What is the energy around Mike Johnson and the budget currently in Congress? King of Swords. It's get off the pot time. There's been enough dilly-dallying going on with the budget, and now it's time to get off the pot and get stuff done. Only took him 6 months to do the year's budget. If this had been an industry, any industry, this guy would have been fired a long time ago. Your budget's due in October, beginning of November, and you don't deliver it till basically April. Oh, dude, you're gone. Cross with the Lovers card. It's a bipartisan bill. It's very similar to what the Senate wanted. The Democrats are celebrating that for the most part. All the crazy writers that the GOP, the Freedom Caucus, the MAGAs wanted to put on there, they got rid of all of them. I guess maybe not the gay pride flag over diplomatic facilities, but all the other stuff that the Republicans want to do, they got rid of. So I think it's gonna go through. It's gonna have bipartisan support, and I don't know what finally drove the King of Wands to finally push this through. I guess he finally succumbed to pressure from the Senate and the Democratic leadership in the House, as well as the presidency, and maybe that Republican conference. They finally decided that they needed to get this budget pushed through. So the Senate's not going to get a weekend. They're going to have to work over the weekend so that this budget can be approved to prevent any noticeable government shutdown. Schumer said it was going to be tight in order to get this thing approved by Friday. So there's a possibility there could be a shutdown, but it's only because they don't have the legislation signed off in time. It wouldn't be anything that impacted anybody. Asking about Mike Johnson in Congress with this budget. In the past, we have the Queen of Cups. Trying to keep a lid on things, trying to keep a lid on the expenses on this budget. They wanted to do cuts, but the problem is that he has such a slim majority that the crazies want all sorts of crazies in it. And he couldn't get a budget passed with this cup lid blown off, and it took him a long time to get the cup lid put back on. And to the point where, again, he has to do special legislation maneuvers to get this to the floor so that it can be passed. Otherwise, it would be blocked. Current situation, Ace of Wands. If it don't fit, get a bigger hammer. So this is the brute, blunt force trauma card. It's like, I got to get this stuff done, and I'm going to use the big hammer to force this thing through. Yeah, you don't want to get hit with the hammer. Get out of the way. Expect in the last budget that went through, there were like 85 people that voted against it, and 83 were Republicans. It's going to be kind of a similar deal to that one with this one. Overarching energy is the Queen of Wands. You've got the Ukraine funding bill next when they come back. This will be the next battle they have to deal with, and it's going to be the next challenge for Mike Johnson. I kind of thought that after the budget was approved, or right around that time, he was going to be removed. I'll do a different reading on that one after this budget gets through to see if that's still the case or not. To see if the Ukraine funding is the thing that undoes him. And it could very well be the Democrats said that if you get this budget and they try to kick you out because of the budget, we'll protect you. That is entirely possible. The lesson to be learned is temperance. It took a long time. There's a lot of toxicity in Congress. And maybe it's a long time for Johnson to finally work with the Democrats to get this thing through. I would not be surprised if the Democrats did offer to protect him on a removal vote over passing the budget. Ukraine may be a different story, may not be. They may support him too on that one. Outcome is the Ace of Cups. The Freedom Caucus is going to be livid, though. They're going on break. I would expect that the social media attacks on Johnson and the weak sauce that is this budget, the rhetoric will be high. I think for federal workers and the American populace, this is going to be a relief. Now, what's interesting is when I did readings on this back in September, October, beginning of November through December, they were popular views. A lot of people were interested in it. There was a lot of tension and anxiety around it. And by the time I was doing readings in January, February, people were so exhausted with the anxiety over the budget and things just not happening, with it getting kicked down the road, that there was less and less interest in it. And it's kind of a tactic that politicians on the right have been using, just exhausting people, just emotionally exhausting people to the point where they're not protesting and they just want things done because they're exhausted. So they get away with more and more outrageous behavior because it takes a lot of energy to be outraged all the time. And they do outrageous things, 20 times a day, every day. You never get a break. So I'm sorry. And that's not to shame anybody or guilt anybody. It's just saying that this is a tactic that they're using and it seems to work. Just be cognizant of it. This is not normal, what we're going through. Okay. Will there be a short shutdown or no shutdown at all with the approval of this? Little four-carder. Ace of Swords. I think they're going to get it done. I don't think there's going to be a shutdown. Everybody gets taken care of. We'll start something new here. Bringing a sudden end to things. Four of Coins. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be a shutdown. Again, there could be. It could be really, really short. It's over before it starts type of thing. I don't think there will be. I think the Senate will stay late. They want to get this thing done. They want to take care of people. They're not going to take the weekend off and have the government shut down. No, it's just there's no political win for shutting the government down. It's not like the Freedom Caucus, like, yeah, we shut the government down for 2 days because the Senate didn't pass this. There's no victory there. The Democrats can't say, oh, the Republicans, they refused to compromise, therefore there was a government shutdown. No, because Congress is getting it done late. And now it's just people having to work hard and work overtime to get it done. So, again, I feel bad for the staffers in the Senate and the staffers in the House that this is how the Republicans want to play it. But you're going to get a 2-week vacation after this anyway, so sorry, you're just going to have to work your butt off. You're going to lose a weekend over this. Not fair, but that's kind of how it's working right now. A little lack of respect for the common worker over there, but at least that'll help the federal workers, the much larger population. All right. How is the Freedom Caucus, the maggots, the MAGA faction, the social media clickbait trolls? How are they going to react to this budget passing through? What are they going to be thinking? How are they going to react to this budget? Or Mike Johnson? How are things going to happen after this vote goes through? Queen of Pentacles. Normally, I would say that's a pretty good card. But here's the budget going through. Well, let's see. This is a signifier card. The budget went through. They didn't get everything. They didn't get much what they want, but they got some small things in there. Basically, it's status quo. There was a lot of drama, and nothing really changed. Ace of Wands. And I think that's going to motivate some of them to talk about how they weren't there just to have the status quo. They're there to make big changes. And Mike Johnson failed them in those big changes. Yeah, there's that strong passion. A couple of aces here. This will make things a little bit more difficult with the Ukraine aid package, because there's going to be people that are really upset that they passed this budget without any significant changes, and they're going to be raging on social media about the lack of changes on here. You got the Moon card, confusion, mystery, secrets, just general craziness. The far right are just they're not sane. They're not reasonable. They're insane. They want everything their way and nothing any other way. They'll bark at the moon to get everything their way. They don't compromise. This is not how governments run. They have this weird notion of how governments run, and it's so far from the truth. But they don't care, because their whole reason why they're elected was by barking at the moon. And actually doing anything is irrelevant. They're not there to do stuff. They're there to bark at the moon. Current situation would be the Eight of Cups. I think a lot of people in that faction are going to be really disappointed with Johnson, and they're going to be walking away from supporting him going forward. Another ace. Here's your third ace. Ace of Pentacles. Big change coming in. Big change in values. There's going to be there's going to be an undercurrent of passion, wanting change, finding new values, finding stuff like that. You got the hedge here is about repeating things. I think passing this budget with no significant changes is going to lead to that undercurrent of trying to remove Mike Johnson. Johnson has kept the lid on them. I think they want to blow the lid off, especially when you've got this Ace of Cups underneath here. Johnson did a good job of keeping a lid on it, but with all this ace energy, and you've got a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse coming up, and both of these are kind of like eclipse cards. Yeah, somewhere between the lunar eclipse, which is happening in a few days, to the solar eclipse, which is happening in a few weeks. We're going to be in for some turmoil and some changes. Flipping, reevaluating, rethinking things. Yeah, it's in the next few weeks, and again, they're going to vote on this and then they're going to take a 2-week break. I think when they're back from that 2-week break, Johnson's going to be watching his support plummet. Because he's not a strong leader. He's a weak leader. And I think he will have lost a third to half of his party because of this. Hey, he wanted the job. That 2 of coins. Remember how we had this last guy. Okay, let's see. Pull out his name, David. The fellow from Ken Buck. He said, they just have to worry about the next 2 or 3 guys that leave. This could get ready for the next 2 guys to leave. To leave the dysfunction. Folks have been asking if Hakeem Jeffries is going to get put in. It could happen. It could be that the Democrats, if enough Republicans leave, the Democrats suddenly have the majority. All right. Let's see. What do I want to throw on? Will there be a movement afoot to remove Mike Johnson in April-May timeframe? I may not get my Liz Cheney House Speaker after all. How is what's the Freedom Caucus going to do about Mike Johnson? There's going to be messaging. Quick changes are happening. Something fast is going to be happening here. Crossed with Page of Pentacles. First off, they're going to get messages about fundraising out there. But I think it's a look at changing values here. The manifestation, the illusion or manifestation. I think the Freedom Caucus is going to start making noises about changes. That Mike Johnson, they have those meetings and he calms their fears down about stuff like that. I think they're done. I think they're done with the meetings. I think they're done with the placation. They're going to want some changes here. They view him as an illusion. He's not bringing the changes that they want to bear. Now, the fact that the changes they want are completely unreasonable and have no basis in reality, that's where the illusion is. But these folks don't care. They want what they want, and they want it now. They are literally Veruca Salt. They want it Oompa Loompa Daddy, and they want it now. In the past, 6 of Coins, the budget's now in the past. They're evaluating, they evaluating the budget. They evaluated this. They're just, they're not happy. They're not happy with the money. They wanted cuts, and they're not getting those cuts. I don't think it'll be Matt Gaetz that does it this time, but there's going to be somebody who's an enemy to Mike Johnson that's going to lead a small revolution of people to, this is like whoever wants to, what's the guy's name? Good or Best or whatever the head of the Freedom Caucus might have a discussion with him, with his lieutenants behind him. This could even be like, the de facto Trump, whoever's going to be the mouthpiece for Trump. If Trump's not happy with what Mike Johnson did, Trump will have his lieutenants line up behind him in a mouthpiece. So this would be like the mouth of Sauron for those who've watched the Lord of the Rings movies or read the book. It's not Sauron talking. It's not Donald Trump talking. It's the mouth of Sauron who just communicates what Trump wants. There's going to be fighting. There's going to be motions put forward or threats that they're going to put motions forward quickly if they don't get something, some type of victory of what they want. What they need is a strong leader. What they have is a weak leader. And there's that leaving away card. I do think that when they're back in session, that there's going to be turmoil in the Republican Party, turmoil in the Congress, and the Republicans are going to look at removing Mike Johnson. I believe that turmoil is going to be there. And at this point, right now, the Democrats have one more agenda item that they want to pass, and that's funding for Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, and Taiwan. If they can get through that, they'll happily let the Republicans self-destruct. Will the funding... And apparently, I saw an article that Trump is proposing some type of funding thing. I didn't read the article because it's early. It's early in the process. It just said, no, Trump's floated an idea and it's gaining steam. Okay, well, that's possible. I suspect it would be greatly reduced funding, but let's see. Will a reduced funding bill or a full funding bill, but maybe even a reduced funding bill for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and Palestine get passed in the House in the next month or so? That would give them time to have their 2-week vacation, select a new leader if they decide they want to get rid of them, or pass this bill and then select a new leader. Let's see what happens. Funding bills. There's that evaluation. Looking at the money, the funding. There's a pretty good chance that this might get through. Let's see what the crossing cards are. Yeah, there's going to be a restriction on the funding. Yeah, you got the 4 things you want to fund. I have gotten the feeling and the vibe that, and it's probably true with the Trump funding bill, which I haven't read, but I suspect what they're going to try and do is they're going to try and restrict that funding. Really, cut the funding back by like 50% or 40% or something like that. So instead of, like, if it's $60 billion for Ukraine, they're going to say $30 billion or $40 billion, and just try to take their victories where they can get it. But I do think that the funding bill will make progress forward, type of thing. I also recall, now this is a while ago, I believe it was Sterling that saw the funding bill get passed, but it was kind of irrelevant because sort of things at that point in Ukraine had calmed down enough where, yeah, it gets passed, but not enough to make a difference. So maybe if Russia continues their advances, Ukraine gets to their defensive lines, and now the funding passes and they've got enough money for artillery and stuff like that, and it just leads to a stagnant front. Not a lot of advancing, and not enough, if they've restricted enough, not enough for Ukraine to start taking territory again, but enough for them to hold what they've got. So there might be a stalemate that comes with the Ukraine war, and that's okay for the short term. Staunch the bleeding. Okay, what are we talking about? Funding. Will the funding get through past King of Wands? I want to say this is like Schumer and McConnell getting the bipartisan funding passed in the Senate and getting it to the House. Current situation in the House is Mike Johnson also, again, realizing he's got to get this funding bill through, especially now that the Democrats have allowed the Republicans to draw a line in the sand with their sword with regards to Israel. Now, again, Mike Johnson wanted to split Israel off. Instead of funding all 4 entities, he wanted to split off the Israel funding and the Taiwan funding and the Palestinian funding and the Ukraine funding. So he's going to try and carve that up into 4 different bills for people to pass. But the Republicans, they kind of want to get the Democrats on record as not supporting Israel. So there's a political opportunity here. If the Democrats, it's political gamesmanship at this point. They're God dang, I can't speak. The foreign policy progression that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, from Biden having his come to Jesus talk with Bibi Netanyahu, to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren sending a memo to Biden saying, hey, they're violating this act. We're not supposed to be giving them any money because they're not doing it what they're supposed to be doing with it. And, Biden prior to that, after the come to Jesus talk and before the memo, was Biden saying, well, I'm not going to cut them all off, but they may only get defensive type weapons. It's to Chuck Schumer then saying Israel needs a change of government. The Democrats have staked out their position, allowing the Republicans to take a safe counter position. But that might be enough to get the funding through. So there's just politics going on here at this point. Overarching energy is the 8 of Cups. There's probably a threat that if he pushes this funding through, that he's going to be ousted, or while they're trying to do this, there's a vote to oust Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson's ousting and this trying to pass this funding, they are very closely tied together. They might follow each other. They might happen concurrently. The lesson to be learned is the Fool card. This is Johnson's last hurrah. This is the last thing he will get through, or the last thing he will be managing before he's gone. They're going to send that man packing. And then we're going to be all over it all over again. It makes it seem like... I don't know which comes first, the chicken or the egg here. If they kick Johnson out, then they have to go through this whole rigmarole trying to find a new speaker so they can get this funding done. If they get the funding done, then they'll go through this rigmarole trying to find a new speaker. What happens first? Let's throw one more card. 9 of Cups. This is going to be... I think they try to oust Johnson before they get this deal done. Well, it's hard to say. This is kind of, again, the Donald Trump and his lieutenants, the mouth of Sauron. That's basically who's driving this Wheel of Fortune, is that. We have weak leadership and Knight of Swords. Things happening quickly. It's going to be... There's no plan in place. It's the same thing we've seen before. It's going to... When the ouster of Johnson happens, and I believe it's going to happen in the next month or so, it's going to be reckless and, par for the course. That seems to me to indicate that they will probably do it prior to a vote, because that'll cause much more turmoil. Or if they manage to get this thing split out, they'll pass the Israel one first, and then maybe the Taiwan one, so they can stand against China. But then they're going to leave Ukraine out hanging, because that's what Trump wants. And they're not going to pass the Palestinian aid one. Heaven forbid you show an ounce of compassion towards people. That's money that should be spent on veterans in the United States. Funny how they always mention veterans in the United States only when it's like trying to help somebody else in another country. What happens when you aren't trying to help out other people in other countries? Do you just ignore veterans in the United States? Maybe we should ask veterans in the United States if they're feeling ignored. Are they getting all the love that they should be getting? All right. One last one. If Mike Johnson's removed, can you give me some characteristics of the next House Speaker? Just a little for Carter. What's the characteristics? Looking at that value and assessing things. A lot of money. Truth. King of Cups. Two of Wands. I don't think it's really telling me much. It's somebody with value, with good. I think this person has solid values. They're a more contemplative person. It's going to be the right person for the job. They're going to have backing. And maybe even bipartisan backing at this point. But they're going to have some backing here. Emotionally mature. Is that what it's telling me? I'm not sure what this is telling me. Is it telling? So now I have to rethink what the question is. We have somebody evaluating. You reap what you sow. Okay. This may not be about who's replacing. This just might be more story. You reap what you sow. The truth is going to be out there. This is more about the Republican Party. You know, here we go. They were in charge. The truth is exposed, though. They haven't done anything. They're not doing anything to help everyday people. I got Biden in here too. Biden, economy, truth, evaluation. I'm still not sure what this is. Planning. I'm not sure what this is. I'm not sure what this is telling me. Sorry, I normally don't like leaving this. I could pause it and ponder this thing for another 5 minutes, but usually by now Spirit's given me a clue as to what's going on. One more clue card, the World card. Things coming to an end. Okay, here's what I'm getting. With the World card, that's kind of a clue. Things coming to an end. It's basically this fiasco is coming to an end. This could be Hakeem Jeffries coming in, or it could be somebody else who's not a MAGA crazy. Yeah, again, if it were Liz Cheney, it's somebody with a pedigree. Somebody who's a serious person that can assess situations. They speak honestly and openly, and they'll be able to work with Biden. It could be Hakeem Jeffries as well. But it's, somebody who's maybe not in the position right now, but is set up for it. So it could be Hakeem Jeffries. It could be a Liz Cheney type person. The World card, the reason why that's kind of going for me on this one is it's bringing something to an end. So whoever it is isn't going to be somebody who's going to perpetuate the dysfunction that we're seeing in the House. It could be that, that Two of Wands, two more Republicans leave, and now the Democrats have a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries gets in. It could be that the House is evenly split, and there's some negotiations going on between the Democrats and some reasonable Republicans about a reasonable replacement. Basically, at this point, what you're looking for is a Lord Denethor from another Lord of the Rings reference. I think Denethor is the right name for it. You're looking for a steward. You're not looking for the king. You're just looking for somebody to keep the lights on and keep the gavel banging. Who is the dude with the bow tie that replaced Kevin McCarthy? I think he had an Irish last name. I've forgotten his name now. Him, Orville Redenbacher. All you need is Orville Redenbacher. Just to get the day-to-day business done. We shall see. All right, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you for your likes, shares, comments, everything you do to feed the algorithm so my video makes it out to a wider audience. To folks just discovering this channel recently or for the first time, welcome to the channel. I hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.